Hello and welcome or welcome back if you're returning to my channel. I am Krista, and over here on Krista Chronicles Life, I chronicle everything related to midlife and living abroad. Today, I'm very excited to be doing another Candid with Krista chat. This time, I'm sitting down with Corrinne. And I'm so excited to talk all about skin and how to take the best care of it as we age. So if it is your first time here, I hope that you stay a while, look around, check out some of the other videos. And also for everyone, please do not forget to like, subscribe, and share. And if you get something out of this conversation, which I'm totally know that you will, please leave us a comment below. Let us know your thoughts. If you have any additional questions, we'd love to hear from you. So thanks for being here. And Corrinne, thank you for being here. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to sit down with me today.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yes, me too. Me too. So before we dive in, I want to go ahead and read your bio so that people can get acquainted with who you are, and then I'll also talk a little bit about my experience with you as well. So, Corrinne is a licensed esthetician and skincare specialist, trained at the renowned, is that
Cinta Aveda. Yes.
Cinta Aveda Institute. She gained additional skincare and waxing experience at high-end spas throughout the San Francisco Bay Area. Corrinne also holds advanced certifications in sugar and wax, acne management, lymphatic drainage, LED and high-frequency therapies, microneedling, and nano pin treatments. In 2023, Corrinne located to vibrant Mexico City, same year as me, where she quickly saw a need to help expat clients navigate skin concerns caused by the region's harsh, dry climate. Thus, Skin by Corrinne was born. Corrinne specializes in facial and body care treatments tailored to care for all skin types and needs. Her no downtime approach to chemical peels has provided tremendous results for clients with melanated skin, providing hydration and the highly sought after post facial glow. In her spare time, Corrinne enjoys long walks through Parque Chapultepec. Yes, beautiful there. Relaxing at a coffee shop or indulging in shopping sprees of new and interesting skincare products. So, quite a background, and I definitely want to dive right in and talk about this transition, or what brought you into doing esthetician work and then moving to Mexico. I just want to know a little bit more about all of the background.
Okay. Oh my gosh, where to start? I get asked this question at least like twice a week, and I still haven't figured out a way to just give a short condensed version, but I'll try my best here. Which is that the short of it is that both my career transition into becoming an esthetician and my decision to move to Mexico City kind of coalesced at the same time. So this was back in 2019. I was grossly unhappy in my human resources job. I had been in human resources for a little over 10 years. And I felt this desire to do something else. And conversely, I also just felt this need to leave the US. I just felt like my life in the US was not panning out how I had hoped it would be, and was just kind of coming to the realization with some help of a therapist of the US isn't the only option. You can go elsewhere. And I was like, oh yeah, that is a possibility that I had once considered in my life, in my youth, for example, when I was an undergrad, but I never explored it fully. So I started coming to the realization that I was both in need of a career change and a location change at the same time. And then the global pandemic happened and just kind of blew up that whole plan initially, or so I thought. But after just kind of sitting with my thoughts a little bit more, I realized, no, actually, if there's some good that can come out of this global health crisis, is that I have a moment to really just kind of sit down and plan out what I want my life to look like over the next couple of years. So I made the decision to go back to school yet again to become an esthetician. And I decided, I think I'm ready to leave the US. I think I'm ready to give living outside of the country a try. Then it became just a matter of where. There's so many other countries and cities in the world. And I started hearing some really great things happening in Mexico City in particular. And Mexico was one of the few countries that was still allowing visitors, travelers to come into the country at the time. So I came just to kind of scout it out and see what all the hype was about. And a week became 2 weeks, 2 weeks became a month became several months. And I just found myself enjoying it and really feeling welcomed by the Mexican community, picking up the Spanish that I had always said I wanted to learn and become fluent in. And of course, connecting very closely with a community of Black expats, Black foreigners who were already here and had already discovered the secret of Mexico City. So my corporate job at the time, of course, when things started reopening, required me to be back in office, but I went back home with some new wind under my wings, so to speak. So I was able to go back to school to become an esthetician. And that was really important because that hands-on component was missing with everything being shut down. So I was able to go back to school, get that hands-on training, find a part-time job at a local spa that I would work on nights and weekends. And just kind of had some new, I had motivation, I could see the end game, the goalpost, if you will. I was like, I know what neighborhood I want to be in. I've got a group of people who are anxiously awaiting for me on the ground in Mexico City. So it just kind of gave me some time to really just kind of hone my skills and also just save my coin, because I was working several jobs to make sure that my transition here would be a successful one. Because while I didn't necessarily know that I would start Skin by Corrinne, I had an inkling that I would need to walk away fully from my human resources job. And that's what ended up happening. So in 2023, I made the decision and I've been here ever since.
Wow. First of all, congratulations on betting on yourself and believing that there was something other than the reality that you were living at that time, that knowing that you wanted something else, that you were not fulfilled in that role anymore, or living in the United States. So I just want to commend you first off for that, because that is first coming to yourself and accepting that you do deserve to live the life of your dreams and what it is that you want to do, and then actually setting the plans in motion to do that is amazing. So I want to commend you on that first.
Shout out to my therapist.
Shout out to the therapist, but still also shout out to you, because we can have all the therapy in the world, but if we're not betting on ourselves and applying those things that we're learning, then that's the part that is oftentimes missing. So not only were you taking that step by caring for yourself in the therapy, you were actually applying what you were taking from that. So I think that's amazing. So my question is, what have you always had an interest in skin and doing this type of work? So how did becoming an esthetician enter into the chat?
Oh God, that's another long. Again, but
Corrinne,
it's an exercise in brevity, right? Like how brief can it be?
No, but no.
So I will say I've always struggled with my skin. My skin has always been something that I was very acutely aware of, even as a young girl. I struggled with my skin very early on, and I still do. I'm a lifelong acne sufferer, and my mother also was a lifelong acne sufferer. So I grew up often seeing her struggle with her skincare, struggle with caring for her skin. I saw her have struggle with really bad skin habits, for example, like picking at her skin and then covering it up with makeup. And then as I started, entering puberty and started struggling with my skin, it was kind of like aha, you got it too type of thing. So there was no, for lack of a better word, compassion or understanding or empathy for struggling with my skin. It was kind of like, now you understand what I've been going through, and so you're going to have to suffer in the same way. But as I got older and started navigating, health challenges, namely obesity and PCOS, I realized that there was something bigger at play, and started seeking out professional help. But I had always had an interest in skincare because I was always trying to figure out what was going on with my skin. And so through that, I started, dabbling into skincare myself. And that coalesced with like also just going natural with my hair. So like this is back in like the early 2000s. I was like, if I'm, putting all this effort into my hair, let me put the same amount and seeing great results with my hair, let me put that same amount of effort into my skin. And so that looked like, making homemade products, dabbling in things, trying out things. No clue what I was doing.
Yeah, right.
I knew nothing. I was doing all kinds of stuff on my skin and having really severe consequences. I'll admit, I still have some scars from some things I've done. But the interest has always been there. And there's been other business attempts relating to beauty and skincare that didn't really pan out for various reasons. But the last corporate job that I had in human resources was actually at Sephora USA. So I was in the Sephora corporate office in San Francisco for about 5 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which was ironic because I was like, I didn't want to be in Sephora. I didn't want to be in retail. I was like, come to find out, after being there, it was one of the best places to work I'd ever been in. And it also kind of gave me a little bit of inside scoop into how that area of the industry, skincare, luxury, how that worked behind the scenes. And I was also very fortunate to be in an environment where the organization heavily pushed, continued education and development, professional development. And so with that, I had the opportunity to really sit down and think about, okay, like if they're willing to sponsor me, give me a little bit of corporate coin.
Yes.
What can I do with this? And so I took advantage of that wholeheartedly. Unfortunately, they couldn't pay for my my education to become an esthetician because it wasn't related to my HR job. But my leadership at the time was very supportive of me going to school. And so I would finish up my HR job at 5 and then run to class and be in my scrubs ready to be an esthetician for the evening for the next 4.5, 5 hours. So it was an environment that was very supportive of me pursuing things that weren't related necessarily to my human resources position. So the interest has always been there. I just didn't have the education and the background to support it. But once I decided to become an esthetician, that just kind of like, took things in a whole new direction. But from my own personal, private, intimate experiences with my struggle in skincare, I've always been interested. And so it took me a while to get here. The path was very interesting, but I'm here now, and it all makes sense. And it's helped serve me because I totally have an understanding and a level of empathy for my clients who do also struggle with acne and who have struggled with it for a very long time, like I have. So.
Right. Yeah, no, that's amazing. Like to see that you yourself were struggling and you were like, okay, what is the solution? And the solution is me figuring out, for you saying like, it's going to be me figuring out how to care for my skin, and to be here now and this being your career is pretty magnificent. And also to have, I feel like it's one of those destiny things to have had the support of your corporate job, as you went out to go to school. I mean, that's also something that doesn't happen all the time. So to, have that type of support, and for you to have that type of discipline and tenacity to be, working and then going to school and, all of those pieces is pretty magnificent. And then so you did that, you got your certifications. And
so you get a license. So you get licensed by the State Board of Cosmetology in the U.S. Yeah. So whatever state you're in, your state has whatever state you're in the U.S. They have their own set of requirements. So like they require a certain amount of hours, what you learn, etc. And then you get licensed by that state's Board of Cosmetology and Barberology. So I'm licensed in the state of California.
Okay. So from the time you got licensed to the time of then you deciding to leave your corporate job and come here, what was the timeline there? And you may have said it, and maybe I missed like how it comes together.
Because it's convoluted. So okay. I'm sorry. I'm going to give you a straight answer at some point in this interview. Okay.
No. I don't need you to do that. I need you to do exactly what you're doing. I want to make sure that I understand.
So I moved here in I moved to Mexico City in March 2023. I still had my corporate job. What I ended up leaving behind was the position at the spa that I was working at because I couldn't be there physically. But so the spa position I had to give up. But I moved here and I still had my corporate HR job. And so with that, I was able to do, I took a leave of absence and gave myself a couple of weeks to transition here. And then once I returned back to work, I asked for an accommodation to be remote. So after that time period, I would say that was about 3.5, 4 months. My corporate position, because I was in human resources, they were like, we really need you to be in office. And I had to come forward and be like, actually, I've moved since the last time y'all saw me.
Yes, by the way. Yes.
I'm far away and there's no possibility of me coming back. And so with that, I had the conversation with my leadership of like, hey, this is my new life situation. Therefore, because you're requiring me to be back in office, I'm just going to have to tender my resignation. And again, because of the good relationship that I had with my leadership and because of other things that were happening in the org, we were able to negotiate my exit. That way they had a little bit of time to find my replacement. And it also kind of gave me a little bit of breathing room to just kind of be like, okay, this is happening. I'm fully walking away from my corporate gig. And in that time, I would say, so that was my last day with the corporate HR position was in September. So was that March to September? That was about 6 months.
Okay.
And so 6 months of overlap. So 6 months of me being here in Mexico City versus and having that corporate job. Okay. Once we had that conversation of like, okay, I'm resigning, I'm fully walking away, reality set in of like, okay, well, what next? What are you going to do? Yes, I had savings. I had a very sizable cushion that I came here with, but I knew it wouldn't last forever. And I was like, well, girl, duh, like you have a whole nother skill set. That was what you were working so hard for. All the past 2 years of like, just start offering facials. And so that's what I did. I started, I let friends know that I could do facials, and in the apartment that I was in at the time had an amenity room where you could bring in your own like massage therapist if you want. And all you had to do was reserve it. Okay. And so what I would do is I would just reserve that massage room and take whatever client or friend that was coming through for that period. And so that's how I started slowly building up my clientele just via word of mouth and just via doing the treatments in that very small, tiny room that we had in my apartment building for massages. So it all kind of happened at the same time. There's a lot of overlap, but it kind of gave me some wiggle room to figure things out. And and it just kind of helped me to get the word out about my skill set, because I felt some kind of way about advertising. I wasn't there yet. So it gave me, little baby steps, right? The baby steps that I needed to start feeling comfortable and confident to put my skill set out there.
Yes. No, that's amazing. And so how long did it take for you to, first of all, because at some point, well, it seems like the people that you were working with, friends and people you were telling, they were your advertisement. Yes. So they were, of course, obviously telling other people. So I'm assuming that's kind of what built the momentum in what you were doing. And then from that point, how did you transition from using the amenity room in your building to then saying, okay, I'm going to take this all the way and actually create a business here in a totally different country? Like, that is so fascinating to me. It's one thing to decide to move here. It's another thing to decide to build a business here. So how did that transition? What prompted you to say that's what you wanted to do? And then how did that transition go?
Yeah, so there was two things happening. So the first was I was becoming busier. The word of mouth was spreading. And as I said before, this was a room, I was using a space that I was borrowing. I had to go to the lobby and beg them to squeeze me in. And, if I was to have more than 2 or 3 clients, it was becoming challenging to have the room booked for that long because other people were using it. There was rules around how long you could have it. So there was that push of just like, okay, I'm starting to have more people than I can accommodate. And then two, because of the building that I was in, I was starting to get a little bit of that weird treatment of like, you're doing some lucrative activities in this room.
Right.
No,
Yes.
no.
Yes.
It's funny because, you know, it's Mexico. So no one's really going to like ever tell you no, like in a harsh way. But, you know, I was starting to get those questions of like, why are all these random people coming in here to see you?
Yes.
And that also kind of was like starting to inhibit the experience that my clients were having, right? So like they're getting held up at the lobby because they want, they're grilling you about like, you know, give me your ID. We need to take a picture and a fingerprint and a retina scan. And you're like, hold up, I'm here for a facial.
Yes, all the things. Yes.
Yeah, all the things. And as you might imagine, majority of my clientele, especially at that time, are all Black folks, and so we can be a little sensitive to that type of treatment because it makes us feel a little targeted, especially if it's not done in the right way or if it's not being well communicated or handled. And so, just for the sake of ensuring that my clients were having a positive experience, I started looking at, okay, I think I need to look into a bigger space or a separate space, and I really just kind of sat down and thought what I needed. You know, I have majority of the things already. I have all the supplies, the equipment. I brought that from the States with me. And I was like, I just need a space. And so I began looking around, and I had a budget. I was like, okay, I'm already getting this amount of clients per week, per month. I know I could handle you know, a rent of a specific amount. And so that was the budget that I went shopping around with. And what that looked like for me was I literally just walked around. I walked around the neighborhoods that I wouldn't mind being in. I didn't want it to be too far away from my apartment, and also was looking online. And quite literally, the first place I found was as I was walking through this cute little neighborhood called Colonia Juarez, I saw a sign, a for rent sign. And I was like, oh, I wonder what that looks like. It looks kind of small, but it's above a cafe. Let me look into that. And I went online, and I just so happened to see that exact same listing. And I was like, oh, wow. This is serendipitous.
Oh my gosh. Yes.
So at that point, the what I had been finding online, everything was very corporate office-y, so a little too sterile, a little too not what I was looking for. I wanted something that felt a little bit more cozy, a little bit more homey. And this was literally the first place I found and the first place I went to visit. And I was like, yeah, this is it. This is it. Immediately connected with the landlady and her family, who have been so good to me. And in a week's time, with all their approvals, we were signing all the paperwork, and I was handing over money, and I was getting the keys. So it all worked out. I will say, I did pivot a little bit from my budget because they were in the process of renovating this building. So what would have been in my budget was significantly smaller than what I have now. So I got first pick. I was seeing all of the rooms that all the rooms that they had available. And I saw the big room, and I was like, this is above my budget, but it's what I want. And so I just took the leap of faith. I was like, I'm doing well. I've been meeting my own personal goals for the past 3 months, and it's only going to get better once I have the space. So I just kind of trusted that, yes, this is beyond my budget initially, but I trust that the clients will come to kind of help mitigate that gap in what I set. So it was totally just like, I have to do this. And there was no, at that point, there was no more fear, right? Like there comes a point, I think, both in my career change, my location change, and starting the business, where like the fear is no longer an option. Like there's this impulse inside you that you have to do it. And I think that was just kind of driving me at the time. So it drove me in going back to school to become an esthetician. It drove me to leave the US, and it drove me to open the business because the fear was trumped by the not doing the thing. And so the not doing the thing was driving me crazy. I was like, I can't deal with this anymore. And so I was like, bump the fear, I'll figure it out later. And so that's how I started the business. And so far I'm in year 2 of it, and things are still going well. I'm still in the same space. My landlord didn't increase the rent.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing.
It's been good. So I haven't had any significant issues with starting the business. I get asked a follow-up question I'm asked all the time was like, is it easy to start a business here in Mexico? And it's kind of a hard question for me to answer because there's so much involved, and I don't have anything to compare it to. Like I haven't officially started a business in the US. I've tried, but I've never really gotten a business off the ground. So I don't know how, I don't have anything to compare it to, but I will say for me, it was a relatively easy process. As long as you have the money and as long as you have the right visa, you can do business here in Mexico. So for me, it was relatively easy. But that's not to say that doing business, like starting a business, easy. Doing business a little bit challenging. So
yeah, Corrinne, that is, again, there's literally nothing that you have said or described that has not just been all about, clearly all of this was meant for you to do, and just all of the serendipitous moments and all of the things that just came together for you the way that they needed to come together, even from the start point when you were using the amenity room, that you had that available to you to even start generating that word of mouth and doing the work, and then that leading you to saying, okay, now it's time for me. I have so much business happening that I need to have somewhere else to go to do this. And again, just a testament to following your gut and following your calling and following what it is that you want to do, and getting to a point, like you said, where you're just like, okay, I'm in it now. You know what I'm saying? Like the fear, and fear is one of those things that I think that is always going to try to show up. And it always up to us if we're going to, tuck tail to it, or if we are just going to continue to push through. And such an amazing story, that's exactly what you did. And being 2 years into it too, is also quite amazing. And I'm also glad that you shared your experience, and that it is possible to create a business here, or outside of your home country. So I think that's also just a really wonderful and inspiring story to hear, for sure.
I do also want to say, Krista, that there is a big spiritual component to my journey. But I also want to say, and there's also like a lot of work that actually had to be done physically in order to get to this point. And so I call that out to say, like, sometimes we can, for both, right? Like sometimes we can be very like, I got to have the spreadsheets, I got to have everything planned out. And then sometimes you can be a little too loosey goosey and woo woo and just like, let the universe take over. There's a both and that has to happen, right? Like there's a faith and a trust that you have to walk in. And then there's also the part where you do kind of have to like put pen to paper and write it down, or, fingers to keyboard and bust out a spreadsheet. Yes, that, I really do feel like God and Spirit was guiding me, but there was also like, I had to make sure the numbers were working out.
Yes, no, absolutely.
I just want to call that out because I know, like, for you and your followers, it's all about like, these big life changes that we totally put our faith and trust into a higher power in. But sometimes you also have to make sure that you're like writing it down and planning it out too, and working the plan in faith, right? Like executing in faith.
Yes, absolutely. No, thank you for saying that. And yeah, that is definitely a huge component, because of course there's no way that you could have gone from your starting point with no action, and ended up where you are. So absolutely. but that is definitely a great reminder that you do have to meet the moment when you are feeling led, or when you are feeling called or pulled in a direction, and you say yes to it. Then yes, you do have to back that up with all of the planning and everything that goes into putting the building blocks together and to actually walk that path. So thank you so much for sharing that. I really wanted to make sure that, before we started, of course, talking about the skin, the nitty gritty of that, because I'm just so fascinated by your journey. I knew a little bit of it, but hearing it in full, I really, like I said, I hope that is, anyone that's listening is as inspired as I am hearing that. So thank you for sharing. And I do want to say, and as we get ready to transition into more of talking about like the skin, I do want to say that I have experienced Corrinne in her element in her studio, which is beautiful and lovely and just so what's the word I want to say? Like you obviously when you go, like I've been there for a facial and I've been there for sugaring as well. And that was you're the first person I've ever done sugaring with. That was my first experience. But just a lovely space and just intimate. That's the word I was looking for. Very intimate. And just the whole vibe, like she got the music going and you just feel just so relaxed in the space. And then the thing that I really appreciated about your services, both with getting a facial and with the sugaring, is that you are explaining everything that you're doing. And I've had facials before, and sometimes they'll say, "Okay, we're about to do this, and then we're about to do that." But the level of education that I received while I was getting my service was something that I had not experienced before, and I appreciated greatly. So I really love that touch that you include in your services so you really fully understand not just what the thing is called, like I'm putting toner on, like why you're doing what you're doing. I really appreciate that element. So now I want to shift gears and go into some questions that I have, and
Okay.
I just kind of assume maybe other people have, and then I do have some like rapid fire ones we'll do at the end. But I am curious to know, how does our skin change as we age? Like what are some of the key things that you see happening with clients, especially in particular those that are like in their midlife years?
Okay. So try to minimize the scientific jargon, but
Okay.
so there's a couple of things that's happening as we age, right? So aging is basically for lack of a better word, deterioration at the cellular level. So our cells are essentially just getting old. They're
Mm-hmm.
old, getting old, and they're being worn over time. So there's what we call intrinsic aging, which is just the natural aging that we're all going to go through because it's the cycle of life. So this is usually, it looks different for everyone because our genetics play a big part in this. So whatever, your ancestors handed down to you will help determine what your natural aging process will look like. But another big component of aging is the external stuff. So we call this extrinsic aging. So all the things environmentally that are impacting our bodies, our cells, our skin, that speeds up that deterioration unnaturally. So this is things like environment. So do you live in an environment that's like heavily polluted and you're being exposed to a lot of toxins? UV exposure, so the sun, specifically UVA rays, are known for causing that rapid deterioration of cells. And then habits and lifestyle, right? So do you have any habits that lead to the deterioration of the skin cells or cells in general? So that's things like smoking. Smoking is probably one of the worst things we could do in terms of lifestyles that speeds up that that aging process. Alcohol, heavy alcohol use, other things like that. All these external factors that we do and apply to our skin and our bodies speed up the deterioration of those cells. So it's important to know that those two things play a huge factor. When I hear it described by scientific and medical professionals, it seems like a 50-50, like a both and are kind of working at the same time. But what I will say is when it on the skin, it appears that like the extrinsic stuff happens more rapidly.
Yeah.
So for my clients, what that often looks like, and mind you, I'm primarily seeing clients who are well into their 30s and beyond, so a more mature crowd, and then of course women of color. What that looks like for us is that we start to see things like a rapid change in our skin's condition. So for example, a woman or a client, it doesn't even have to be woman or man, and anyone in between, at a certain point, they notice a significant change in their skin. So for example, maybe they went their whole lives with clear skin, and so now all of a sudden they're having acne breakouts. or suddenly they realize, dang, I'm really dry. I didn't used to be so dry. My skin feels dry and tight. So there's these rapid, sudden changes that happen in the body that reflect in the skin. And so it varies from person to person, of course, but those are like, I would say, the two main things that I hear people talking about, like a sudden acne flare up or sudden dryness. For people of color, people who have a little bit more melanin in their skin, we often can avoid that collagen and elastin loss. So they say black don't crack, for example. That's because because of our melanin, the way our melanin kind of upholds the structure of our skin, we see less of that like deterioration of elastin and collagen, but it still is happening. So I believe the statistic that often gets used is that by age 30, we start losing about 1% of our collagen and elastin every year as we age. And so over time, things start kind of drooping and sagging. There's like less firmness and bounce to the skin. And again, because of our melanin content, we retain it a little bit more, but it's not to say that we don't lose it or that we're not losing it underneath. We just appear not to as quickly. So gotcha. I mentioned that because a lot of times my clients, I'm like, how old are you? And they tell me their age. I'm like, no way. There's no way. Right. Because they don't look it. But once I bring my magnifying light over their skin and as I start touching and feeling their skin, I can see the signs of aging happening. And again, it's like sudden onslaught of acne flare-ups or, deterioration in the skin. I can see micro fine lines in the skin that shows me that there's a lack of moisture or hydration or water in the skin. And it's all because the skin is just having a hard time creating and holding on to those things. So those are some of the things that I see. Again, it varies widely because we all age differently. There's so many components in it. Like I said, lifestyle, genetics, but those are the main factors that I see in clients as we start, getting into this season in our lives. So I hope that answers your question, but in some, everything kind of slows down, right? This is the elastin production, collagen production, our ability to hold on and retain moisture and water, all of that kind of slows down over time. And then depending on the level of melanin in your skin, we can see that either relatively quickly or it might be a slight delay, but it does happen.
Okay. So that explains it beautifully. My next question would be then, as we know that these things are happening and it's part of the cycle of life, and obviously it's going to vary from person to person in terms of what type of regimen someone would need to do. What I understand, so I'm asking you in a general sense, because I know it would be person to person, but generally speaking, what are some of the things that you suggest that we should be including in our skincare routine to help work with our body in its cycle of life as we're getting older? I've titled this chat Pro Aging Skincare Tips, because
which I love, by the way. I love that.
Yes, because I really am doing my personal best to make it a point for us to work with the changes of life that we're experiencing and looking at them through a different lens than which we have traditionally been taught, which is everything is anti-aging. And I'm like, well, if you anti-aging, what's the alternative? You know what I'm saying?
Right. Because like I said, there's intrinsic aging, right? There's an aging that we're naturally it's going to happen, unless somebody can figure out how to pause the hands of time, we're all going to age.
Exactly.
So it's bound to happen. Yes. But I guess to answer your question, I would say something that I haven't done so well of a job so far in our conversation is to highlight how much help I have had along the way in this journey, right? I did mention my therapist. I did mention having like a good work environment, but I didn't focus on like the community that helped me to build the business here. And I mentioned that because I haven't done none of this has been something that I've done in isolation or that I've done by myself. And what I'm encouraging my clients who are now in this season, and to be quite frank, just for women in particular, are experiencing perimenopause, is I'm constantly reminding folks to don't do this alone either, right? Like in the same way that like, we're going to new countries and like building community and getting our friend groups and our networks in the same way that we're starting businesses and then, being in networks and, reaching out to folks. Like, don't go into this season of life doing it by yourself either. And so whether that's navigating, symptoms of perimenopause. So like, sis, go and get that hormonal replacement therapy or something or whatever it needs. I would also say, make sure that you have a skincare specialist in your life and routine as well as a part of like your overall holistic care team. And I say that because a lot of times what I see with clients is that we're guessing of what's going on with our skin. We don't quite understand where we are and particularly in the perimenopause cycle. We don't know where our hormones are. We don't understand the products that we're using and why. So I would just say, like, just pause for a second and get some help. Get somebody who's a professional in this area that you're struggling in and have them give some advice. So if you've been struggling with your skin, if you're noticing these fluctuations, if you're concerned about the way your skin and your body's aging, if you want to ensure that you're aging healthily and in a positive way, get some help in that. And so to answer more directly, I always tell people let's pause, because we first go to like, what are the products, right? What are the products? What are the treatments? Tell me what I need to go buy. And I often have to, one of the first questions I ask clients when they come to see me is, walk me through your day-to-day skincare routine, morning and night. What are you using and why? And let me tell you, Chris, the majority of people cannot tell me what they're using. They're using it morning and night, every day, probably for the past 20, 30 years, but can't tell me what products they're using or really struggle to describe its function and its purpose in their skincare routine. They're mostly doing it out of like blind habit, right? They're just doing it because it's something they've always done. And so before I can even start giving you more product recommendations, I often ask clients to just like, let's sit down and understand what you're currently using and why, so that I can understand what are the gaps, if any, in your current skincare routine. And then I often hear, so as people, kind of like, it's a long process. I think we've done it too, Krista, like, I walk you through it. But as you're outlining for me what you're using, I'm trying to listen for, gaps in what you're using. And then as we go through that process, one of the things that most people that are often most missing, like, so the big glaring gaps in people's skincare is exfoliation. And exfoliation is important because that is something that also slows down over time. Our skin goes through its own renewal cycle. And a part of that cycle is to shed skin, the dead skin, at the surface, the skin that comes up, that's dead, it's dry, it no longer serves its function, it's leaving the skin compromised. The body says, hey, we don't need this anymore, let's get rid of it. That process slows down over time. And so this, when the skin has dead buildup, or when the surface has a buildup of dead skin, that leads to a clogging of the pores, which contributes to, like, the sudden onslaught of acne and breakouts that some people have. And it also inhibits hydration from getting into the skin. So if you've noticed that you become suddenly more dry, it's probably because your moisture or your hydration factors aren't getting in. Your body isn't getting into and receiving the hydration that it needs to be nice and supple and hydrated. So exfoliation is really important. And then for us, especially depending on what climate you live in, like for us here in Mexico City, we have some other extrinsic factors, some other environmental factors that play a role into it. We tend to have a pretty hard and dry climate. And then we also have very hard water. So all of those on top of, our bodies are naturally slowing down its renewal process of the skin, that all inhibits the functioning. And so one of the best ways that we can keep it moving along is to exfoliate. And I typically recommend a gentle exfoliating product at least 1 to 2 times a week. Something that, fits in your lifestyle, your budget, how you want to use it. So I love a nice exfoliating powder. There's plenty on the market. I don't want to, again, go into exact product recommendations, but a nice, gentle exfoliating routine that you do 1 to 2 times a week, just to help slough off the dead skin, is perfect. And then also I say focusing on the right hydration. What I see a lot of clients doing is, again, probably a habit that they've brought with them from their childhood years, is that they're slathering on heavy oils and butters.
Mm.
I need people to let the shea butter go.
Oh, no more. The shea butter has
As a
officially.
moisturizer, for sure, for like your elbows, your knees, and things
Right.
like that. But as a facial moisturizer, it can
Yeah.
be a little bit rich and oil clogging. And
Okay.
especially if you're using such heavy products and then not exfoliating, your pores are never really getting clean and clear. And so
Mm.
often I'm having to, with much effort, because we love our shea butters, our creams, just like, hey,
Mhm.
can we pull this back? Can we dial this back and replace it with something else that's a little bit more in line with what your skin is needing, that won't be so oil clogging? And for those
Mhm.
who swear up and down that shea butter has done them right, I can tell. So I can tell when a client is using a lot of these heavy creams and butters, because
Uh-huh.
as I'm doing a facial, for example, I bring over a magnifying light to do extractions. And extractions are just a way of saying we squeeze pimples. So when I
Mhm.
go to squeeze the pore, yellow substance comes out, and that's just all
Oh,
shea butter. So that shea butter has
wow.
been sitting in that pore, clogging it and blocking it from getting the nutrients that it needs. So if you've wondered why
Wow.
like there's a lack of shine and luster to your skin and you're slathering on the shea butter, it's probably doing more harm than good. So
Mm.
I tell people all the time, yes, you swear by your shea butter. I can see it. I can see it. And it's not doing
Yes.
favors. It's a wonderful moisturizer. We love it, but it is not good for hydrating the skin. And we often
Mhm.
get hydration and moisturization confused. So
Mhm.
hydration is about water content. How much water does your skin, your cells, not just your skin. So we're talking about skin, but I want people to understand it's the cells that make up your skin. So
Mhm.
how much water are those cells receiving and holding on to? When they
Mm.
are not receiving and they're not holding on to it, they deteriorate more rapidly. And the way that
Mhm.
shows up on our skin is that dullness and that dryness that I mentioned before. So
Right.
hydration is an important and overlooked factor, which maybe I should clarify that. So I would say exfoliation, hydration, and moisturization. So the
Mhm.
hydration factor. So is your skin getting water, and is it holding
Mhm.
on to the water? And
Mm.
then moisturization, which we often put overemphasis on, hence the shea butter. The moisturization is about creating a nice protective, nutrient-rich layer on top to help the skin
Mm.
kind of lock in the hydration, right? So you have your skin, your hydrating layer, your water, and then your
Mhm.
moisturizer that kind of keeps it locked in and on top. So that's
Mm.
where shea butter, if you really must use it, would come into play.
Mhm.
But I say like focus on the hydration factor and then the moisturization, and you'll see a significant difference in your skin.
Amazing. Yeah, well, I will say that shea butter is not something that I personally use on my skin. So I'm gonna say I'm gonna give myself a little gold star for that
Yes,
for that
yes.
one thing that I was doing incorrectly. I also will say that since I'm seeing you, I have been exfoliating as well. So doing that. So um, that is a great breakdown. And I would also imagine that we also have to pay close attention to what we're putting in our bodies as well, in terms of what is going to come out in the skin. So I would assume that even when you're speaking about hydration, actually being hydrated by drinking a good amount of water and, have, fruits and vegetables, things that have high water content, that we paying a close attention to those things, I would imagine could also be
Mhm.
helpful or useful.
Yes. So when you said that, I was thinking of our fruits and vegetables. Yes, they give us fiber and water content and all these wonderful things that we need. Something else that they're really good at providing is antioxidants. So
Mm,
as I mentioned before, one of a big extrinsic aging factor, so a big environmental factor that ages us, is pollution.
mhm,
And so when we think of pollution at a microscopic or molecular level, these are simply just free radical molecules that go around looking for stable molecules to eradicate them. So they're looking for something to latch onto, to feed off
mhm,
of. And in that
mm,
feeding process, they kill it. And one of their favorite things that they love is live living skin cells.
mm,
So
mhm,
pollution
mhm,
literally does, attach itself to our skin, to our cells, and rapidly deteriorates them. And one of the ways that we combat that is through antioxidants. Antioxidants are neutralizers. So what they do, so you have this free radical looking around for like some live, living, fresh, healthy skin cells.
Yeah.
And the antioxidants come around and police and say, hold up, not this cell. And they attach themselves to that free radical and neutralize it. High school chemistry all over again, but just trust me in that.
Wow. No, I don't know if I've ever heard that broken down like that before.
Yes. So that's what antioxidants are doing. That's what we call them, the anti-oxidizing. So they're the molecules that prevent that oxidization, that deterioration of our cells. And one of the best ways to impart that into our bodies is to make sure we're getting our fruits and vegetables, especially those that are rich in antioxidants, like your vitamin C. And so, yes, to your earlier point, drink and eat your fruits and vegetables, drink your water, supplement if you need to with a vitamin C. And vitamin C is the most talked about and most popular because it's the most well studied. So it's stable. We know it's safe. It performs consistently. Vitamin C, especially for your skin, is probably one of the better supplements that you can and should be taking. I also really love me a good vitamin C serum. I always recommend putting your vitamin C on in the morning before you go outside. And before your SPF, so your vitamin C, let it absorb into the skin, and then about a minute later you can apply your SPF. That kind of gives you another defense shield as you go out into the world and into the environment. So especially if you live in very urban, densely populated areas with a lot of traffic, a lot of pollution, vitamin C is definitely a must in your skincare regimen and in your supplementation if that's something that you feel like you want to add or need to add.
Amazing. First of all, can you still hear me? One of my AirPods died. So
okay.
I want to make sure that you can still hear me. Yes, amazing. And that's another thing that I have done is that I have been using a vitamin C serum as well. So just know that the education that you have put out there, or things that you told me even when I've seen you, that I'm doing my best to make sure to implement.
I love having a good student.
yes, to implement them. That's amazing. But that's a wonderful breakdown. So thank you so much for explaining the how it works with the antioxidants and the oh my gosh, the free radicals. It is free radicals. Okay. Amazing. Okay, so hydration, exfoliation, and moisturization. And ladies, let's ease up off the shea butter.
Use it on your elbows, your knees. I love me a good shea butter moment. I was slathering it on the other day, but like for the face, it's not the go-to for hydration.
It may not be doing what you think it's doing, ladies. Yes, you've heard it here. You've heard it here first.
Especially if you're not exfoliating. Like, come on now.
Yes, and when people are coming to see you, you're like, yeah, I know you use shea butter because I'm sitting here doing these extractions, and that's all I see coming out of your skin.
Yes, and I'm not exaggerating or speaking hyperbole. You can literally see it, and like when I wipe my, I use like an extractor tool. When I go to like clean it and wipe it off on like a piece of cotton, the cotton pad is yellow. Like especially if you use like a yellow shea butter, it's yellow. Yeah. So it truly is that shea butter. So it's just sitting in the skin, y'all. Hence why for that reason, I'm not a big fan of it, but nothing against shea butter in and of itself.
Completely understand.
Because somebody will inevitably come in your chat and be like, I've used shea butter my whole life and never had any problem. And I'm like, I believe you.
Right. They will. Listen, that's okay. It is people's prerogative. You take what you want and leave the rest. But like you have a highly trained professional telling you. And if people, want to not take heed, then, that's up to them to do. But we appreciate the information in the insight for sure. And I feel like my next question, I feel like you've already answered it essentially, because it was really just, your recommendations for healthy and vibrant skin. And I believe that you really just covered that, unless there's something else that you wanted to add into what you just shared with us.
Yeah, I was just looking over my notes. So a follow-up question, again, thinking about like the clients that come to see me.
Mm-hmm.
Another season that people seem to be in is like they're considering injectable treatments. So that's
Okay,
like
yes.
fillers and Botox and whatever else you've seen on TikTok and Instagram being injected into
Mm-hmm.
people's faces. And
Mm-hmm.
I don't have anything against those treatments. I just say you really need to make sure you're doing your due diligence in exploring those options. So making sure you're going to, I personally recommend going to a board certified licensed cosmetologist or I'm sorry, excuse me, dermatologist
Mm-hmm.
um, for those treatments, at least to get an understanding of what they recommend that you may need or would be the most beneficial for you. I personally,
Mm-hmm.
although I'm asked all the time, I don't have any intentions of doing injectable treatments on people. I feel a certain way
Mm-hmm.
about putting a needle in someone's skin.
Yes, understood. Understood.
So
Yes.
I don't do those at my studio. But if that's something that you're interested in, get a licensed medical professional to look into that for you and give you their recommendations. Also, as a part of that research, take a look at their work, right? So ask for examples of clients who look like you, have similar skin to you, to understand if that particular professional has experience navigating and working with your skin type. I say
Mm-hmm.
that because, especially for people of color, melanated folks, we I have found that, a lot of times, even in my own education, our needs and our unique factor of being heavily melanated is not something that's we're not taught to navigate in the
Mm-hmm.
aesthetics field. And so, and the same applies to the medicine field too. We've
Of
heard the
course.
story.
Yes. Yes, we
So
have.
it's really important that you make sure that whoever you go to do your injectables, that they really know their stuff,
Mm-hmm.
because regardless of what you may have heard online, a lot of times these things cannot be easily removed. So take your time, do your
Mm-hmm.
research, ask for examples, and then by all means, if that's something that you feel like you want to do or need to do, go right for it. But just make sure you're
Mm-hmm.
doing it intentionally and not being too influenced by the trends and things that you're seeing on social media, because it's definitely out there. There are a lot of people who are doing these things and not getting the results that they had hoped for.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for saying that, Corinne. I'm so glad that you had that as a point to bring up in this conversation. And yes, everybody has a right to do whatever it is that they want to do to their face, to their body. I would just personally also add the caveat in there is that, when we're doing things, I think it's really important to explore the why behind
Mhm.
why we're choosing to do, especially when it comes to things that are,
Yeah.
altering, how, how we look externally. Why are you seeking this particular treatment? So I think really doing that due diligence, like you said, to really, make sure you're asking the right questions of these professionals, but making sure you're also asking yourself the right questions about why you are wanting to go into that in that direction. Because I think a lot of times we get under the impression that if we make this certain external change, that it might help us internally,
Mm.
or that might fix whatever it is that might actually be going on internally, and you think doing something externally is going to solve
Mm.
that. So I
Yeah.
think that it's a in my view anyway, I think it's a broader exploration that I think is definitely worth really sinking your teeth into when you're thinking about doing something to yourself, to your skin, to your face, or whatever.
Yeah, one of the hard but soft questions that I ask people to consider when they're getting anything done to their skin, but just I think this applies anywhere in life. It's like, can you still own the decision even if things don't turn out how you had planned, right?
I love that. I love that. I
know,
love that.
I've been doing this a while, and there's unfortunately been a very small handful of times where clients were not happy and
Hmm.
immediately want to do the blame game. And it's like, no, wait, this is something that you came.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
booked the
Hmm.
appointment.
Yes,
They're gonna
yes.
get. So still take
Yes.
that, can you still own that decision, even if, you don't get the outcome that you were initially seeking? Or do you
Mhm.
think you would, be really upset and want to point the blame elsewhere? Not to say that, practitioners don't have some accountability as well, but I do really think it's important to remember, like, I need to own this, and that this is something that I'm
Mhm.
doing and electing to do to myself.
Mhm.
And if I
Mhm.
don't get the outcomes that I want, not just like if things go bad, but just like if I got injected with a ton of Botox and my face is still moving, am I going to be upset? So I just
Mm.
encourage clients to really just, own that and think about that especially before they start doing some of these more aggressive and advanced treatments
Mhm.
that require a significant amount of investment, both time and money wise, to really own that
Mhm.
decision.
Right. I love, love, love. I'm gonna start using that, Corinne. I'll give you credit, but I love that. I love how you frame that. I think that's a very beautiful way to put it and question to ask of someone. Really, really, really good. Um, because I think that just goes back to our earlier point of also, and the why and asking, can you own your
Yes.
decisions? Because just in the conversation around midlife, around aging, that if
Yeah.
that's why I feel like this conversation is so important,
Mhm.
because I feel like if we can embrace aging in a way
Mhm.
that is different than what has been set up for us, right? Especially, I think
Yes.
women
Yes.
have held the brunt of this for so
Mhm.
long that we don't have the same, or I've traditionally not been given the same grace as it
Yeah.
pertains to aging. And I
Yes.
feel like that conversation is shifting, which I'm happy about, because I think that it is important for us to really look for ways to work with the aging process and not look at it as something as though it's a failure, or that
Mhm.
we have to work so hard to fight against the
Mhm.
natural cycle of life.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so I think all of those elements are really important.
Mhm.
Okay, so what are some of your skin, like maybe two, your top two skin no-nos?
I like that you gave me two.
No, I don't mean like that, Corinne. I'm just saying because literally, because literally, it was such a broad question. Like I
Yes.
just wanted to help you to be like, okay, skin no-nos, it could be 10,000. So I just like your top two or three.
No worries, no worries. No, it's a good thing because I had a whole list. So we've already talked about, exfoliation, hydration. We've already knocked shea butter a good amount. But two other things that I would add is skipping SPF.
Mhm.
I still come across a lot of folks who are like, team, I don't use SPF. I don't believe in SPF. I've
Don't
read
believe.
something,
Wow.
especially for the deeply melanated,
Okay.
and one thing I will say to that is like, sure, you're correct in that we don't burn in the same way that maybe
Mhm.
people with less melanin burn, right?
Mhm.
But as I said at the very beginning of our discussion, there are extrinsic factors that
Mhm.
speed up the aging, or the deterioration of our skin cells. And one of those
Mhm.
things is the sun, specifically the UV rays. And
Mhm.
so SPF helps to protect us from some of that rapid deterioration that occurs, at least from the sun.
Mm.
So sure, you don't have to put on slather SPF for the to avoid burning. Okay, fine.
Mhm.
But at least
Mhm.
for the sake of slowing down unnecessary deterioration of your skin cells, please consider using and finding an SPF that works for you and your lifestyle. It is
Mm.
the sun, UV rays are probably one of the biggest extrinsic factors that leads to our rapid deterioration of skin.
Mm. Mm.
So find something. It's 2025. There's a product out there. Trust me. The skincare industry and product formulations around SPF have made a tremendous advancements, leaps and bounds. So it's not the
Mhm.
SPF of yesterday from your youth where you're going to walk around with a white face looking like your
Mhm.
casket ready, There's plenty of
Right.
formulations out there for you that will blend beautifully and nicely into your skin. You'll look like you. I'm
Mhm.
wearing SPF right now. Um,
Mhm.
that'll play well with your makeup if you wear makeup. So there's
Mhm.
something out there for you. There's no reason to not wear SPF in this day and age. There's so many out there to choose from.
Mhm.
The second thing I will say, uh, another product that gets my ire are mattifying products. So
Okay.
specifically using nothing but mattifying products. So what I often see, and for many reasons, right? Maybe we're in a season where we're like prone to a little bit more sweating, we're having personal summers or what have you, but the
Mhm.
overuse of mattifying products tends to work against us. So for example, I'm seeing clients that are using a mattifying cleanser, a mattifying toner, a mattifying moisturizer, and then a mattifying SPF if they're using it, and then a whole bunch of
Mhm.
mattifying makeup, right? And so all
So,
of these.
okay, I'm sorry. Can you explain what mattifying is
Oh, sure. So
for
basically,
myself
yeah,
and
sure.
everybody
So
else
basically,
listening and doesn't know what
basically
what you
these
mean?
are products and ingredients that are meant to help reduce the oil that's on your skin, because usually
Okay.
people who are reaching for mattifying products tend to be on the oily side, so they have a sheen or a shine to their skin
Okay.
that they don't like aesthetically, and so
Mhm.
they're trying to reduce it. And so
Okay.
what a lot of times people do is they will use products that help to soak up that oil and give us a more flat, less shiny appearance to the skin.
Got it.
Let me clarify, because I know this is on the internet. Let me clarify and say there's nothing per se wrong with mattifying products. My
Mhm.
issue is is it being a part of your full on skincare routine. So everything in your skincare, from your
Mhm.
cleanser all the way to the foundation that you're putting on, are all
Mhm.
sucking up and sucking out that oil. And
Mm.
when you're overusing these products, you're just exacerbating the problem, because you're sucking up all your oil, but your
Uh-huh.
oil glands are saying, "Hey, there's nothing here. I need to make more oil." So it becomes a
Mm.
self-fulfilling, um, a cycle that just kind of worsens itself if you're using too many of these products. So think again about our earlier part of our conversation when I'm talking about hydration. So if you're
Mhm.
noticing that you're overly oily, maybe
Mhm.
it's a sign that your skin is trying to make up for a lack of hydration. And so a
Mm.
good place to start is to maybe take out some of the mattifying products and replace them with more hydrating and moisturizing products and ingredients. So
Mhm.
that could look like so the opposite, if you will, for
Mhm.
I'm saying that loosely. The opposite of something that's mattifying is more
Mhm.
hydrating, a humectant. So
Mhm.
humectants are a range of ingredients that are good for helping to pull moist or hydration into the skin and to
Mhm.
help the skin retain it. So humectants
Okay.
are ingredients like glycerin is the most popular and widely available,
Mhm.
honey,
Mm.
beta glucan,
Mhm.
hyaluronic acid.
Mm.
Oh my gosh, now I'm drawing a blank. There's so many more, but those are the
Okay.
main
Okay.
see, right? The humectants are really good for at a molecular level of being like, oh, there goes a little bit of hydration in the air. Let me pull that into the skin and hold on to it.
Mm.
So
Mm.
consider switching out some of your mattifying products and getting more hydrating products. That way your skin, your oil is not working overtime to try to lubricate and soften and hydrate the skin.
Fascinating. Fascinating. Like, because
I talk about this all day. That's why I was like, I got more.
no, no, that is so fascinating because I don't think that would ever think about it that way, especially because it almost seems like counterintuitive
Yes. Hmm.
to be thinking of more hydration if you're
Hmm.
oily. You know what I'm saying? Like you're so I can
Yes.
understand like people are going to be reaching for what they think the opposite of what's happening. But you're
Yes.
saying that the skin is like, we're doing this because we're lacking
Yes.
the
Because we're dry, we're
hydration.
hydrated. There's something going on. We need to hold on to it.
Yes. Yes, that's
Um,
fascinating. Okay.
and
Okay.
I'm and I say this with love, please know that.
Yes.
But I also speak from personal experience. Like I said, I'm a lifelong acne sufferer. I've done all
Mhm.
kinds of things to my skin, and for a long
Mhm.
time I was super oily, and I was one of those people that was using a lot of mattifying products. But it wasn't
Mhm.
until I made that switch to more hydrating products that I started to see some significant difference or changes in my skin. And then when I went to school, I learned why. I was like, oh, that's why. Like that's why the more hydrating gel product was a little bit more helpful and beneficial to my skin versus the mattifying powder that I was using every day. So I speak from personal experience, anecdotal experience, and also like from what the science shows that it's just counterintuitive to use a lot of mattifying products.
Amazing, Corrinne. Like that, like I said, that just knocked my socks off because it just seems so counterintuitive. So I think that I hope that people hear this and have that same revelation, like, whoa, okay, and then they will make some switch, some those changes and see a difference if you are someone that suffers, with oily skin. Amazing. Okay, so definitely SPF. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say something else. Another really good ingredient that might help. So I talked about humectants, but another really great ingredient is niacinamide. So niacinamide will help to balance out oil production in the skin. So a really good niacinamide serum will help just like over time balance out the oil creation so that you're less oily as well. So that's another really great alternative to, as opposed to using a ton of mattifying products that actually kind of like help fix the problem in and of itself as opposed to just covering it up.
Yes. Okay. I love it. Okay. So we want to definitely SPF no matter who you are. SPF is important, especially for our melanated folks. Whoever told you that it's not necessary. Because again, we're trying to work with the cells. We're trying to work with what's happening intrinsically. Is that right? That's right word? We're trying to work with the cells as because there is, like you said, it's just part of the life cycle where there's going to be deterioration. However, the more that we work with things that our cells like, the more vibrancy will be there. So again, I think that's, again, with the mindset of pro-aging. These are pro-aging tips because you're working with cells as they're going through their life cycle is what it seems to me.
Exactly. You got it going on. Yes.
Okay. Amazing. Okay. So I did get a viewer question. But I put a question box out in stories on my Instagram. And somebody wants to know, if you were 25 and could only use one product for the next 5 years, what would it be?
No. Only one.
Only one.
So it would probably be SPF. Yeah. Basically, I say that because of all that I've already shared with regards to SPF. And again, like I was mentioning earlier, like I've been through all of this. I'm preaching from the choir in that pulpit, and that like for a long time I didn't wear SPF. I don't think I started wearing SPF until my 30s. So I can only imagine how much better. I love to fantasize about how much better my skin probably could have been if I started wearing SPF much sooner, because for a long time I was one of those people that was like, I'm Black, I don't need it. But now I'm 38 years old and there are still some areas of my skin and my body where I'm still struggling with, some lingering hyperpigmentation that was probably, I don't know 100% for certain, but was probably exacerbated by a lack of wearing SPF. And so if I could go back, I would just shake 25-year-old Corrinne and just say, you got to wear SPF, find something. You're wearing makeup anyway. Like, deal with because at that point, that was more than 10 years ago. So probably I didn't have a lot of really great options for SPF, but I would have told myself just to like suck it up and wear it, because the sun does create a darkening effect. It triggers our melanocytes to make more melanin. It's our protector, right? So that's why we tan. So when the skin detects sun and UV rays and heat, that triggers our melanocytes, because our melanocytes are thinking, hey, we got to protect the skin to ensure we're not getting burned, to ensure we're not having any issues. And so the darkening process it's great to keep us healthy, but
Mhm.
aesthetically, in terms of like, dealing with signs of unwanted spots and hyperpigmentation, it's probably one of the worst things that we could do, which is
Mhm.
not to wear SPF, and to
Yeah.
overexpose the skin to the sun
Mhm.
and to heat. So if I could go back to answer that question, it would be wear SPF earlier, sooner, get
Mhm.
over this idea that because I'm Black, I don't need it, and
Right.
start
Right.
incorporating a lot more sooner in my skincare. The second would
Mhm.
be probably a vitamin C. Again, for the
Okay.
reason, a vitamin C serum, for
Okay.
the reasons that I've already talked about. Because again, my personal experience has been I've been dealing with acne my whole life. So what are some things that I
Mhm.
can do just to kind of help deal with um, uh, the what's the word I want to use, the way it's showing up on my skin. And vitamin C, in
Mhm.
addition to being a really great antioxidant, is really great for helping to brighten the skin, overall skin's complexion. So I probably would have
Okay.
started using vitamin C a lot sooner as well.
Okay. Yeah, and listen to your point. Like, um I'll be 50 next April, and like I'm an 80s baby. So like SPF, that wasn't even a thing. Like I don't nobody was talking about that. It's like when I was growing up in the 80s and early 90s, that wasn't a thing, especially if you're Black. You know what I'm saying? It was that attitude of like, you're Black. What do you mean? You know what I'm saying? Like we don't need it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
It was like
we
it was that
we would
yeah.
slather ourselves in cocoa butter and shea butter and then go outside and play, right?
Mhm, mhm. Yes, yes, and like because we really had this thought like that we're blessed. We don't need that. I'm saying the sun, like we don't need to be protected from the sun because our skin is our. So that is definitely something that I think is a newer conversation amongst Black folks and perhaps other melanated folks as well. But I know for sure, as a Black woman, that was not a conversation that was being had growing up about SPF. And I also just wanted to point out as well, or ask you, because I think when I saw you, I asked you this question
Mhm.
about SPF, that even if you're indoors and you have a lot of sun coming in,
Mhm.
that you should be wearing it as
Yes.
well.
Hmm. Exactly.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
So yeah, folks. So like even, you home, there's going to be a good amount of exposure, even
Yes.
indoors, that
Yeah.
it's something. So it just sounds like it's, to me, correct me if I'm wrong, it just sounds like something that should just automatically be a part of your skincare regimen, and you should just put it on on a
Yes.
daily basis anyway.
Yeah. It should be. One of the things I like to tell folks is that, like, you mentioned it briefly, like, oh, our melanin is going to protect us, and yes, it does. That's
Mhm.
the function, and one of the functions and purposes of our melanin is to protect us. However,
Mhm.
I like to remind people that this environment, this sun, is not the
Mhm.
same sun we were playing in when we were younger.
That
There's
part.
less
That part.
ozone, for example.
That's
I'm
right.
sure when we were playing outside, a lot of us probably weren't dealing with this level of like traffic and congestion and all kinds of stuff
So
in the air.
true.
Um,
Yes.
I've I've lived in several major cities my
Mhm.
entire life, and
Mhm.
there's nothing like the pollution that I see and experience here, that we experience, Krista, like in Mexico
Mhm.
City. Like, it's a whole
Mhm.
different ball game
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's a mega city. There's millions of
Mhm.
people, and then we have
Yeah.
two volcanoes that are constantly spewing ash.
Right.
Things
Yes.
just in
Yes.
our environment, like the cloud cover, the way the sun hits the land, it's all different.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and Mexico City is a green city. There's trees and grass and parks
Yes.
everywhere,
Yes.
but
Yes.
it's still a very different environment. So for
Yeah.
all those reasons, those environmental reasons, SPF is a definite must.
Okay.
Yeah, do not skip it, and I'm certain you
Okay.
will see a difference in your skin once you start using it regularly. You'll definitely
Okay.
notice some improvement in those those uh, those things that come up for us, especially if you're deeply melanated, when we have overexposure to the sun. So we do get like
Mhm.
sunspots. We do get
Mhm.
skin. Some skin tags are related to hormones, and some are related to UV exposure. So there's different ones. So all
Okay.
those things do come up for us. We do freckle. We do get the spots and things like that. You'll notice some of
Okay.
that being lessened and reduced when you start incorporating SPF in your routine.
Okay. All right. Well, I will say that is one area that I can tighten up on. It, like making it like an everyday thing. You know what I'm saying? Like I try to, like if I know that I'm gonna be outside or going on my walks, that I put it on. But I think I know that I need to just like it's just part of the steps of the routine, and
Mhm.
just put it on regardless. So
Yeah.
I definitely need to tighten up on like how often.
We all do.
That
I'm
I
not so
use
good
it.
about the reapplying in the middle of the day.
Oh wait, we're supposed to reapply?
Yes. Yeah. It wears off, with sweat and things like that. So you are
And
supposed to
I sweat
reapply.
all the
But again, I'm
time.
not this is one of the areas I could tighten up on is I'm not so good about the
Wow.
reapplying. Mostly
Okay.
because, like when
Well,
I'm out and
that's
about, I'm not thinking about it. I'm like I have my SPF on, I did my makeup,
yeah,
I'm touching things, I'm riding the metro, I'm doing
right.
other clients' facials. I'm not worried. I'm not necessarily thinking about my own skincare throughout the day. It's more like a morning and night type of thing for me. But I could do
Right.
better about it.
Good to
Yes.
know. All
I
right.
wouldn't be a good
Fine.
esthetician if I didn't mention that.
Yes, thank you. Because that certainly was not on my mind.
Mhm.
Okay. I'm gonna ask you two more
Sure.
questions. Oh, and I'm trying to figure out which ones of these that I want to ask. I'm gonna ask this because you just posted this on your stories, and
Sure.
I was really fascinated. LED masks, yay or nay? And I'm assuming yay based upon what you said in your stories.
Mhm.
Um, but if it's a yay, which I'm
Mhm.
assuming it is, why? Like, what are the benefits of these LED masks? Because that seems like it's a newer thing that people are using. That wasn't something it doesn't, at least from my knowledge, that has been around for a while. It seems like a newer kind of like advancement or technology that people are doing.
Mhm. It seems that way, but it's been around for quite a while. So,
Okay.
quick answer: yay for LED devices. LED therapy is what it's called. So,
Okay.
LED basically just stands for light emitting diodes, and these are just like the little bulbs that you see that the lights are coming from. And so,
Hmm.
LED is a form of light that is able to help us with that deterioration of our cells. So
Mm.
because of the wavelength of the light when it hits our cells, they're able to have various effects on the skin. So when we think of the prismatic rainbow, for example, you will recall from way back in like middle school, high school, that every color of the rainbow has a corresponding wavelength. And
Hmm.
so when you think of like your blue violet, that usually has a shorter wavelength. And so when that
Hmm.
particular color of LED light is applied to the skin, it is able to work at the surface level to help
Mm.
to help kill bacteria that may be
Hmm.
sitting on the surface and causing inflammation or clogged pores,
Mm.
pimples. Up next in the prismatic rainbow, we have like our green yellow, and that has the
Hmm.
next strongest wavelength. And because it has a slightly stronger wavelength, not only does it affect the surface, it's actually able to penetrate ever so slightly into the next layer of our skin, which is the epidermis. And at the
Mm.
epidermis level, it's able to help stimulate things like blood flow
Hmm.
and reduce inflammation or swelling.
Mm.
And then up next, you have your strongest wavelength, which is your orange and red.
Hmm.
Because they have the strongest wavelength, they are able to affect the surface. They're able to penetrate the surface and get into the epidermis. And then from the epidermis, they can get into the dermis, which is like one of the more lower levels of the skin. And at that
Hmm.
level, we're able to do things like stimulate the creation of more elastin and collagen, which, as we said at the beginning of our discussion, is slowing down over time due
Hmm.
to intrinsic aging. So
Hmm.
LED is great for a whole host of skin concerns, but we are primarily seeing it being used for pro-aging remedies, so that creation of elastin and collagen. So you've
Hmm.
probably seen it all over your feeds on social media. The more common light being used is the red light because it does all the things that all the other lights do, but you'll
Hmm.
definitely see like a blue light, a yellow light, and things like that for the various reasons that it's being applied to the skin.
Hmm.
So I'm a big proponent of using LED. The
Hmm.
The challenge is one of the reasons why you feel like it's a newer fad, so to speak, is because there's definitely a trend that's happening around it. Everybody and their mama is selling an LED device. And
Yes,
so
yes.
this is what I tell my clients all the time. Like the science is solid. Like there's a 30, I believe 30 plus years of science backing the effects of LED on improving and healing or renewing cells.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Mm-hmm.
solid. What's a little bit harder to figure out is like what devices, what tools are out there are real versus gimmicky. And this is where a lot of
Right.
people have a bit of a harder time, which is by design. It's because of marketing. But I see some things to keep in mind when it comes to LED. True LED does not heat up the skin. So if you get whatever you buy, whatever device, you get it off of Temu, Amazon, wherever, that device should not be creating a warming or heating sensation on your skin. If it does that, it's not true LED. That's a different type of light.
Okay.
So, and for us, like I was saying before, when we think of, our melanin and how our melanin gets triggered, that heat can be triggering our melanocytes to create more melanin. So if you're someone who is struggling with hyperpigmentation, unwanted spots, that heat is the last thing you want to have applied to your skin on a regular basis. So make sure that whatever you buy, wherever you buy it from, you plug that baby in. That device at the part that's on your face or on your body should not be heating up. The electrical component can heat up because it's directly into the socket in the wall. That's fine. That's generating electricity or getting fed electricity, live electricity. It should be heating up, but the device itself should not be hot. Krista, I can't remember the last treatment that we did on you in the studio, but if we did an LED, hopefully you should not have felt.
We didn't do an
Okay.
LED. Okay.
So there should be no heat emitting from it. Like the room temperature doesn't change when I do an LED treatment. So it's not supposed to heat up. That's how you know it's true LED. The second thing I tell people to look for is that you don't need all the colors of the rainbow. A lot of companies will be like, we have pink and purple and blue and all these things. And that's fine. Okay. So one was even like, we have white LED. I'm like, that's just you know,
right. What are we
so
doing?
I tell people the three main colors that you need. I wouldn't even say need, but to like that, that are sufficient are blue, yellow, and red, the primary colors. And I say that because all the other colors in between, the secondary and tertiary colors, are just combinations of those three, right? Okay. So the difference between a purple light and a blue light, not much difference. The difference between, a yellow light and a green light, not much difference. The difference between orange light and red light, again, not much difference. So just stick with the three primary colors. All the other colors, purple, pink, brown.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Not needed, and that's truly a gimmicky device because they're trying to sell you on, look at all this value that you get, but you really don't get anything from those colors of significance, right? The heavy hitters are the primary colors. And then the third thing I say to look out for or to consider as you're buying a device is your own lifestyle and habits. So there's so many different types of devices out there. The one that you mentioned on my stories, Krista, is from, it's a mask that you literally just kind of like put it on your face like a helmet and you can walk around hands-free. Really nice. But what I use in the studio is a bendable panel that kind of like covers the face like a dome. And I particularly like that one because I can do that. I can just lay underneath it or I can apply it to other areas on my body. So just consider like your lifestyle. Like, is there something that you want or need? Like, do you need it to be hands-free or are you looking to just like lie underneath a light and just let it do its thing? So there's a lot of different options out there. Consider how you most plan to use the device. If you're someone who travels a lot, maybe get one that's kind of bendy and flexible. That way it can, go in your luggage with no issue. So there's, just consider your own personal lifestyle and habits and how you think you would most often use the device because there's so many out there that to choose from. It's like an overwhelming of choices out there. So just consider your own personal lifestyle and how you plan to use it, and then buy that one based off of your needs.
Right. Wow. Amazing. Thank you for that. That's great because I have been so curious about them and like wondering, like I said, to me, it seemed like a newer thing and like more kind of like a new trend that, everybody's using them and doing. I'm like, okay, are these actually something. So I was really excited when I was scrolling past your stories and I saw that you had talked about it and, had recommended one.
Yes.
So I definitely took a screenshot of that. So I was like, okay. And
Yes.
then now with this further explanation, that's amazing. Okay. And then our final question of the chat is, what is one skincare myth you would like to see gone forever?
Ooh. A skincare myth. Oh, there's so many. I feel like we've talked a lot about them already.
Yes, because I was going to say the SPF and melanated folks. I feel like that's probably one.
So I would say something that my industry gets a little bit of flack for, and not to say that isn't self-contributing, is that we think aesthetics is all about beauty. But truly, aesthetics is about the health and the condition and the wellness of the skin. That is all. That is what aesthetics is. It just so happens that the more we take care of the skin, the better it looks, right?
Okay, wait. Hold on. Please, for the people in the back. That was too good for us to skip over. One more time. Aesthetics is what again? Please repeat that.
I forgot what I said. Aesthetics is about the health, preserving the health and the functioning of the skin. Our skin is the largest organ of our body. It is our protector. It helps to regulate our bodies. It helps to ensure it's our first line of defense in our immune system. The skin is the biggest organ, the most important organ, in my opinion. And aesthetics is all about preserving it, ensuring it's functioning properly, ensuring that it's healthy, and helping to sustain it. And it just so happens that because the more we take care of it, the better it looks. And so I just want people to know that, like, when you say you are going to see your esthetician, or if you want to become an esthetician, it's not about vanity. It's about maintaining and ensuring the health and wellness of your skin. And that's what I'm here to help you do.
And I think that is the most beautiful note to just seal this conversation up with. That I love that. You dropped so many wonderful nuggets, Corrinne. Thank you so much for sharing so much knowledge with us about skin. I learned so much sitting here with you. It goes without saying that if you are in Mexico City and you are looking for someone to add to your wellness team and self-care and taking care of this beautiful organ that Corrinne just so wonderfully described for us, I highly recommend Corrinne. I'll make sure all of her information is in the description box below so that you can reach out, make an appointment. If you live here, if you're visiting here, coming through, it's a wonderful way to treat yourself. Thank you again so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. And for everyone that is watching this, thank you so much for taking the time to sit with us. And I really do hope that you took away some really great nuggets and things that you can start to implement into your own skincare routine. Let us know what your biggest takeaway was from this conversation in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. And if you believe this conversation would be beneficial to people, please spread the wealth and the love and share with others. And please also don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. I intend to keep these conversations going about pro-aging. So once again, Corrinne, thank you so much. And thank you everyone for watching. And I look forward to seeing everyone on the next Candid with Krista. Thank you again, Corrinne.
Thank you.